Before I was born, there was movement. Paddles pushing pent-up people through oceans of pain. That explains my fear of water. When I was born, there was movement still. Lines, paths, roads, circles, and tracks. Check it. I had my first perm in elementary school. Went from coarse, curly black hair to straight, thin. Then what are you gonna do with this do? After that, I did braids, weaves, ponytails, extensions, this faux hawk, mohawk, ducktail, design on the side type thing. Now I have locks, but before all of that, I also wore tracks. Then there was high school. St. Paul Central, big gray 5-floor in a basement building, kind of looks like a prison, kind of ran like one too. The 5th floor was for the academic acronyms like AP and IB. The 4th floor was for the Quest learners, second to the best grade point average earners. The third was whatever. The second was pass, and the first was us, the theater class. How we were placed in this system tracks. Pause. My name is Tish Jones, and I've been called here to represent ancestors whose blood sifts through the palms of my little brother's hands as he plays in the sand and they bless him. Forefathers who existed before my forefathers and raised men to raise men, hence the sun and the raisin. Then a generation of beautiful black women born and bred to believe that beauty belongs to everyone but them. So they die and they fry and they try to fit in many ways, allowing trains to leave tracks on their thighs because the tracks attached to the root of her naps, which hang to the mid of her back, reduce self-respect, and she is all right with that. They call her a runner, making laps on laps. Known as a track star, she is on someone else's track. Then there's the little boy whose father was sent away yesterday. Yes, he's having a bad day, so he answered the test questions in the wrong way. He's frustrated in the hallway, fighting to keep his tears to himself, and she walks by. Smart, skinny, makes failing a test seem hard. If you don't believe me, peep her report card. Anyway, she and he were cool. They went to the same school, hung in the same crew, did things that two best friends would normally do until after taking that test, when she got labeled advanced and he got labeled a fool, dropped out of school, did what he felt he had to, became a star mathematician, a genius in the kitchen, studied how different greens and whites would help with his addition, a financial advisor for women, pimping and flipping. Now my man fights his tears inside of a prison right next to Pop's. Pause. Forget it. Just play track, black boy, or football, or basketball, or just ball, black boy, rob, steal, fail, get money, get girls, and go to jail. You do the same, black girl. Read Cosmo, People, Vibe, and Vixen. Try all your life to find the place that you fit into. You see, I represent broken histories, missing texts from textbooks, kinesthetic learners that don't test good, products of society, 24 hours of good, clean sobriety, a language that I play with because mine was taken, in a country that shuns me, and I have so much stake in it. A people who are a direct result of an action taken, and a people who fear those people, so they've created laws to evade and contain them inside of lines, paths, roads, circles, and tracks. My name is Tish Jones, and I have been called here to represent the missing piece. Thank you for listening. So I'm sure you caught my name, but for the sake of repetition, it's Tish Jones, and the poem that you just heard is called Tracks. We'll talk more about the poem briefly, but for right now, I want to tell you a little bit more about me. I am a poet. So I've always been a poet. I primarily practice spoken word poetry, which we define at True Art Speaks as poetry that is written with the intent to be performed. I don't do this work because I like to be the center of attention, although I do like to be the center of attention. I do, it's true, I'm not gonna lie. But it's because spoken word is so dynamic. The writing process is deeply, deeply, deeply introspective, critical, and informative. It allows the writer to learn more about themselves, to play and imagine, while simultaneously giving us a safe space to question, critique, and challenge the world around us through a creative process. The performance aspect of it just allows me, or the performer, to connect with folks we may have never otherwise encountered, yeah? It is a powerful practice of meaning-making, knowledge, and coming to know oneself. Paulo Freire, great educator, author of Pedagogy of the Oppressed, once said that there was no such thing as a neutral educational process. He said that education either functions as a tool to integrate the younger generation into the present logic of the education system and bring about conformity to it, or it becomes a practice of freedom, the means by which men and women deal with, creatively and critically, their reality and discover the tools necessary to reimagine and transform their world. Spoken word, then, is a practice of freedom. And tonight, good people, we are here to talk about freedom. Y'all with that? Okay, tight. But before we do, we have to break the rules really quick. We have to do something about the fourth wall. The fourth wall is a theater term that refers to this imaginary line between the performer and the audience, meaning I need to hear from you. My style is too hip-hop to talk at you all night. So we're gonna do this thing hip-hop style, call and response. Very true to TEDx. But also, I need to know that you're rocking with me. In the contemporary sense of performance poetry, we have folks snap their fingers when things resonate with them. So if you hear anything at any point tonight and you're like, oh, I feel it, just snap your fingers so I know that we're good. Good? Good. Sounds like rain. I love it. Cool, so let's go back to the poem really quick. Tracks was one of my first practices at Freedom. It was written just shy of 21, new to college, queer, Black woman, from the historic Rondo neighborhood, which is in St. Paul. A historically Black neighborhood that suffered from, like many other Black, Indigenous, and POC communities throughout the United States, it suffered from targeted, systematic, institutionalized racism. Yeah. This is important to my process because when I was writing this poem, I had literally just hit my stride. You know what I mean? Like I just got into being a poet. So I was thinking about these things. I was thinking deeply about the ways that my history and those different sort of intersecting identities would affect my life, my future, my social circumstance. The process of writing the poem helped me dig into that a bit deeper. Let me explain. Tracks has 3 core sections. The first is about identity, right? It opens with a nod to my ancestral lineage as a descendant of enslaved Africans in North America. It then moves into a discussion of my struggle with beauty standards, highlighting different hairstyles that I wore through my teenage years. Pause. I heard some of y'all laugh at that part of the thing, which is cool. That's actually really good. Your laughing lets me know that spoken word is working. You can relate to what I was saying. I'm sure some of y'all have had some updos and haircuts and like different dye jobs that you try to tuck in the back of the photo album, hoping that they never resurface again. I thought so. I don't call anybody out. I know some people, but I ain't gonna call you out. But what that says to me is that spoken word is effective. It essentially can build a bridge across an assumed sea of difference. So when I talk about braids, weaves, ponytails, extensions, this bohawk, mohawk, ducktail design on the side type thing, it allows you to dig back into your catalog of, hairstyles that we never want to mention again. And it affords us an opportunity to connect with one another, yeah? Me, the performer, you, the listener, and more specifically in the context of my liberation and the liberation of my people, other Black women who may resonate with this struggle to attain the unattainable Westocentric idea and standard of beauty. There is a freedom in that connection. A freedom from isolation, a freedom from thinking you're the only one that's dealt with it. You're the only one that's thinking about it. There's also a freedom in letting go of the notion that you can't connect with someone that doesn't look like you. A freedom to connect, yeah? Cool, so the second theme of the poem talks about, the outward-facing theme, I should say, is the school to prison pipeline. But the real juice is highlighting the absent narrative, yeah? What you hear in that poem is the student's perspective about their high school experience from the voice of the student. The fifth floor was for the academic acronyms like AP and IB. The fourth floor was for the quest learners, second to the best grade point average earners. The third was whatever. The second was pass, and the first was us, the theater class. How we were placed in this system tracks. This is nothing short of a social political analysis of the education system. A vivid depiction of an area high school perpetuating social class hierarchies, yeah? The thing that makes this so exciting for me is that it comes from the voice of the student. There's this thing that happens with marginalized communities where we don't often get to tell our stories ourselves. We're studied like lab rats. Jay-Z once said, you wanna know why they call the projects a project? Because it's a project, an experiment, wherein it merely is objects. Students, scholars, reporters, researchers, missionaries, they come into our communities and tell us about us. What this poem does, what spoken word does, is it allows us to provide a first-person narrative, to talk about the authentic experience that we live, yeah? Furthermore, it pushes back against an age-old practice of omission and erasure. We get to keep and write our history, the people's version. Are y'all with me? Tight. So the third and most important section to me is the section about purpose. All poems have a purpose. They illuminate the poet's purpose, maybe even the narrator's purpose, but there's always a piece about purpose. I represent broken histories, missing text from textbooks, kinesthetic learners that don't test good, products of society, 24 hours of good, clean sobriety, a language that I play with because mine was taken, and a country that shuns me and I have so much stake in it, a people who are a direct result of an action taken, and a people who fear those people, so they've created laws to evade and contain them. Spoken word is a radical tool in our collective liberation. It makes way for the voiceless to reclaim language, to reclaim words, to reshape the world. Now, the approach and the methodology may be different from poet to poet for sure, but one thing you can count on with the spoken word poem is that we are going to come through with our history, be it personal, collective, whatever. We're going to talk about our identity, yeah? And we're gonna be creative. That's one thing that's consistent and across the board with a spoken word poem. When a poet gets on stage, they are sharing themselves, their history, their lineage, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and their wildest dreams for the future. Yeah? They are a bridge beckoning connection. We all have been indoctrinated into this idea of difference for so long. Spoken word is challenging us to let go of this practice of othering and really see one another, to build tribe. That's my mission. My mission is to build tribe. So this isn't a call to you all to pick up a pen and write a poem or a book. That's my job. But it is a call to open your hearts, to support the arts, to go to a show, to practice freedom through deep listening, and recognize the significance of bearing witness to another's story and carrying that truth with you every day for the rest of your life. to paraphrase Leela Watson, my liberation is intricately connected to yours, and yours to mine. And it is time to get free. Thank you.